Revealed: how an incredible doctor saved a millionaire lawyer's life. Unexpected transformation begins. Jake Miller sat in a plush hospital chair, staring blankly at the stark white walls. Once a man defined by ambition, the six-figure salary, the penthouse apartment, he now felt like an imposter in this world of luxury. In an instant, his life was upended by an unexpected diagnosis, a rare illness that stripped away the polished veneer he had so carefully crafted. Tears prickled at the corners of his eyes as he struggled with a loneliness that echoed louder than the beeping machines around him. But then she walked in. Dr. Emily Carter, a brilliant physician with kind, warm eyes, crossed the threshold and entered his life like a burst of sunlight. Her scrubs were slightly rumbled, the strain of a long shift evident on her face. Yet there was a fierce determination radiating from her, and Jake felt a flicker of hope. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice calm and steady, cutting through the haze of his despair. "Jake," he murmured, barely finding the strength to meet her gaze. And right there, in that simple moment, something began to change. Emily leaned in, listening intently as Jake opened up, sharing shadows of his lonely life, climbing the corporate ladder while sacrificing the values his small-town family instilled in him. As she shared stories of her own struggles, the barriers began to fade. With each word, laughter and understanding filled the sterile air that had once suffocated him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as Jake began to embrace the possibility of being seen again, his phone buzzed. A family emergency dragged him back to the uncomfortable reality he had tried to escape. He realized how far he had distanced himself from the very place that held his roots. The conflicted emotions washed over him like a surprising wave. He was still that small-town boy, the heart aching for connection amidst the skyscrapers that loomed high above him. As days turned into weeks, the bond between Jake and Emily deepened. Their shared laughter often echoed down the hospital's sterile hallways. She taught him to face the darkness of his illness, shedding light on the power of vulnerability. Yet the weight of his secret tugged at him, whispering fears of failure. What if he dared to reach out to his family? What if they didn't want him back? Jake stood on the precipice of a life-altering choice. The golden cage he had forged began to feel unbearable. He looked at Emily, who had become more than just a doctor. She was a mirror reflecting the soul he'd buried beneath ambition and pride. Would he risk it all? Would he be brave enough to confront his past? The clock ticked insistently, and he felt the suffocating grip of his isolation tighten. The scars of his upbringing ached, calling him home. As he pondered, the warmth of Emily's unwavering support fortified him. Jake took a deep breath, ready to shatter the walls that had long kept him at bay. The question loomed large. Was he finally prepared to embrace love and family, or would he retreat back into the shadows of solitude? With every beat of his heart, he knew he was on the verge of a monumental transformation. The world around him faded as he realized that his true journey was just beginning. Jake's heart raced as he rehearsed the words in his mind, a simple message that could pave the way to reconnecting with his family. "I need you," he whispered softly to himself, feeling the weight of every syllable. He wanted to reach out, to bridge the chasm that had formed over the years, but fear held him in place like a heavy anchor. What if they were hurt or disappointed by his absence? The late afternoon sun streamed through the hospital window, warming his face. He glanced at Emily, fitting a crisp file into her bag. She caught his gaze, and her eyes, filled with genuine concern, helped to calm the turmoil inside him. "Hey, everything okay?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, her brows knitting together in worry. "Yeah, I was just thinking about my family." The words slipped out before he could stop them. You should call them, she encouraged, stepping closer and leaning against the nurse's station. You never know how they might feel about hearing from you. You have nothing to lose. It was true. He saw in her eyes the strength he longed to uncover within himself. With her encouragement, he felt the grip of his fear beginning to loosen. Taking a deep breath, he pulled out his phone and hesitated momentarily, finger hovering over his contacts. What would they say? Emily stayed nearby, her quiet presence a comforting anchor. She watched as he scrolled through his phone, the laughter they shared earlier abruptly fading into a nervous silence. He landed on his mother's number and stared at it as if it held the answers to all his questions. "You can do this," Emily whispered, her voice steady like a rock amidst his storm of emotions. With a shaky finger, Jake pressed dial. The phone rang, each tone echoing in the pit of his stomach like a countdown. Would his mother be mad? Would she welcome him back? "Hello?" Her voice came through, soft but laced with surprise. "Mom, it's Jake," he managed to say, the words tasting foreign on him. There was a pause, an eternity wrapped in uncertainty. "Jake? My God, where are you?" The excitement in her tone brought tears to his eyes, a flood of emotions pouring over him. I'm at the hospital. I want to come home," Jake said, each word pushing through the veneer of his stoicism. He finally took the step he had resisted for so long. He could hear her breathing quicken. "Anything you need, honey, just come home." In that moment of vulnerability, Jake felt a rush of relief. He hadn't realized how deeply he missed this voice, this connection. The tender memories of childhood crept back, bringing with them echoes of laughter and love he thought he had buried. After hanging up, Jake's heart swelled with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Hope replaced the shadows that had haunted him. The golden cage he once felt trapped in became a bright, inviting space. He turned to Emily, who wore a proud smile. "I did it," he said, disbelief coloring his voice. Emily beamed back at him. "See, that wasn't so hard, was it?" Jake could hardly believe it. A small piece of him that he thought was lost, the boy who used to run around the front yard with his mother, was breaking free. The thought of going home, of facing old ghosts, ignited a fire within him. But that fire was warm, not consuming. Yet a thought nagged at him. What would happen when he returned? What if everything was different? As Jake pondered his next steps, he felt a familiar tug in his heart. Was he truly ready for the confrontation? To face the life he had chosen to leave behind? The uncertainty hummed in him, a reminder that his journey was far from over. And with that uncertainty came a thrilling realization. He would have to brave the crossroads ahead. The real challenge was waiting for him just beyond the hospital doors. Jake stepped outside the hospital, the warm air hitting him like a gentle wave, refreshing yet full of promise. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he thought maybe he could step forward into the light of a new beginning. Emily walked beside him, her presence a steady comfort. "What's next?" she asked, her tone casual, though he could sense the anticipation bubbling under the surface. "I'm not sure. I guess I'll go home and see them." The words came out hesitant, a thin veil of uncertainty still lingering. Would they even recognize the man he had become, or would they see someone altogether different? "It's going to be okay, Jake. Just take it one step at a time," she reassured him. He nodded, but moments of doubt crept in. What if his mom had moved on? What if she had built a life for herself after years of silence? He couldn't help but worry about how this reunion would play out. As he approached his childhood neighborhood, the familiar sight of his old house sent a rush of emotions through him. The front porch, the garden his mother tended with care, and the oak tree he used to climb all rushed back to him in vivid detail. Memories of laughter and warmth clashed with the years of absence, creating a storm inside him. "What if they're angry? What if I ruined everything?" Jake muttered, a tightness forming in his chest. Emily stopped, turning to face him, her eyes bright and earnest. "Look, it's okay to be scared, but you took the first step. You reached out. That counts for something. Remember, you're not doing this alone. You have me. Just be honest with them." Her encouragement felt like a lifeline, pulling him from the depths of his anxiety. He exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing heart. He hadn't realized how much he needed this, how much he needed her steady belief in him. They reached the door, and for a moment, time froze. Jake's hand trembled as it hovered over the doorbell. He wanted to just push it and let whatever would happen unfold, yet he hesitated. He felt so small, so vulnerable. The boy who used to run around this place was now a man standing on the precipice of what could be a wrecking or rebuilding of his past. In that heartbeat of silence, Emily placed her hand over his. "You're ready. Trust yourself." With a little nudge from her, he rang the bell. The sound resonated through him, echoing his nervous excitement and fear. They stood there, the world around them fading away, and then footsteps approached. The door opened, revealing his mother, a look of shock washing over her face as she took in Jake's presence. Time seemed to stretch as he searched her eyes for recognition, for love, for anything that might indicate she'd been waiting for this moment too. "Jake," her voice was a whisper, filled with disbelief and hope. The sight of his mother brought a rush of emotion that almost overwhelmed him. Before he could think, her arms opened wide, and he stepped into them as if pulled by an invisible force. The embrace was warm and familiar, yet it felt foreign after so long. Tears threatened to spill as Jake tucked his face into her shoulder, feeling the years slip away. This was home. This was where he belonged. But just as he was ready to let go of all the worry, he heard a voice from behind. A man's voice, deep and jagged with disbelief. What the hell is going on here? Jake's heart dropped, recognizing the tone. He pulled back, his mother's embrace slipping away as his father emerged from the shadows of the hallway, arms crossed and eyes narrowing. The surprise on his mother's face faded into worry as Jake turned, his breath caught in his throat. How would he explain his long absence? Would his father's anger rise like floodwaters, sweeping away the fragile peace he'd just found? Jake stood at a new crossroads once again. Would this reunion turn into a battleground or a bridge to healing? The answers loomed like distant thunder, and he wondered if he could face whatever storm was coming. Jake's throat felt tight, and he forced himself to steady his breath. The weight of his father's presence loomed over him like a cloud threatening rain. This was a man who had always had a powerful opinion, and he could feel the mounting tempest within his father. "What are you doing here, Jake?" his father demanded, voice low and laden with tension. His mother stood between them, her face a mask of confusion and concern. "Jake, he just got back. It's okay. He's—" "No, it's not okay," his father interrupted, shaking his head as if trying to dismiss the entire moment. "He left. He chose to leave. You don't just walk back into this family after years of silence." The coldness in his voice cut deeper than Jake anticipated. It was a bitter reminder that the years hadn't created any bridge, just a chasm that felt impossible to cross. He could see disbelief and anger swirling in his father's eyes, and he understood this was not the reunion he'd dreamed of. "Dad, please," Jake started, his voice cracking. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I'm back. I want to explain. I want to make things right." "Make things right?" his father scoffed, his arms tightening across his chest. "You think that just coming back will fix everything? You think after all this time, everything is forgotten?" "I wasn't trying to forget," Jake shot back, frustration bubbling up and mingling with fear. "I was trying to find myself. It took me a long time to realize how much I missed this family, how much I missed you." Jake looked desperately at his mother, whose eyes shimmered with tears. He needed her support now more than ever. "Mom, please, tell him." Her hand reached for Jake's, squeezing it as she moved closer. "Jake's been through so much. He's courageous for coming back. Can't you see that? He needs us now. We need him." But the storm had already taken hold of his father. He stepped forward, a grim set to his jaw. "Those are just words, Jake. I want to see proof, living proof that you've changed." The challenge stung, sparking anger in Jake. "Just because I don't wear my scars where you can see them doesn't mean I'm not different. Didn't anyone teach you about understanding, about forgiveness?" "Understanding doesn't change the past," his father said. "You left us without a word. I have every right to be angry." Angry? The words slipped out before Jake could stop them. It was an outburst, raw and unrefined, bubbling from the depths of all those pent-up emotions. His father's jaw tightened, but Jake pressed on. "What about hurt, loss, regret? Is anyone here even willing to talk about that? Or are we going to stay trapped in this cycle of bitterness?" The room fell silent for a moment, the air thick with emotion. Jake's heart raced as his dad processed what he had said, revealing a vulnerability he never expected to see. Finally, his father sighed, but the anger on his face softened. "This isn't easy for any of us, Jakey." The nickname edged into their conversation, like a forgotten thread connecting their shared history. "You vanished." Tears brimmed in Jake's eyes. "I know, I was scared. I thought by leaving I was protecting you, but I was wrong." Just as he felt a glimmer of hope, tension sizzled through the air. "Why should I trust you? You left us behind." "Because I'm here now," Jake pleaded, his voice breaking. "I want to rebuild, to undo my mistakes, but I can't do it alone." Something shifted within his stance, a hesitant openness glimmering through the shadow of doubt. Just as Jake sensed a possible turning point, the distant sound of his phone vibrating in his pocket interrupted the moment. He hesitated, unsure whether to check it or cling to this fragile hope. Would the message be another distraction from what was unfolding, or something that could change everything? With heart racing, he fished the phone out, feeling more tension tangle within him as he glanced at the screen. But what he read there made his breath hitch, bringing with it an urgency he couldn't ignore. Jake's heart skipped a beat as he read the headline. It was as if time had frozen, the world around him blurring into a background hum. An incredible doctor? A millionaire lawyer? Why was this coming to him now? It felt like a lifeline thrown into his turbulent sea of emotions, yet the words were so cryptic he couldn't make sense of them. "Jake, are you okay?" His mother's voice broke through the haze, pulling him back into the moment. He looked up, meeting her worried gaze, feeling the crackling tension still lingering in the air. "This?" His voice was barely above a whisper as he lifted the phone with trembling fingers. I don't know what this means." His father stepped closer, casting a wary glance at the screen. "What is it?" "It's a news alert," Jake managed, his mind racing, "about a doctor, a millionaire lawyer, in distress." "Is this supposed to mean something to you?" His father's tone was edged with skepticism as he narrowed his eyes. "I don't know, but it just feels significant. Like—" Jake trailed off, words failing him. His pulse raced again, a sense of both possibility and dread brewing inside him. Like it could change everything. Change what? His father crossed, arms crossed tightly over his chest again, as if bracing for a storm. "If you mean your return, let's not get carried away." Jake's frustration flared again. "No, it might be more than that. What if this doctor has faced the same things I have? Maybe his journey is something I need to hear about." "Right, because sensationalized headlines are so enlightening," his father scoffed, the distance reestablishing itself. Dad, please. Jake took a step forward, his voice rising in urgency. I'm trying to find a connection here, anything that could help us break down these walls. We've spent years building them, and now I'm back trying to do something different. If this story holds the key... His mother's hand rested on his arm, a grounding presence. Jake, do you really believe this story means something? I have to, Jake replied, emotion bubbling to the surface again, raw and untamed. People change, Mom. Change is real. If this lawyer could get a second chance through that doctor, why can't I? The room turned still, their collective breath caught in anticipation. His father looked momentarily brought to a halt, an old memory flashing in his eyes as he processed Jake's plea. Where once there had been anger, perhaps there was now a hint of something else. Curiosity? Fear? Sometimes, his father said slowly, second chances come with strings attached, Jake. You need to be ready for what that means. I'm ready, Jake blurted, his conviction solidifying. Whatever comes next, I'll face it. I need to, for us. As if sensing the shift, his mother smiled softly, warmth returning to her gaze. We're all in this together, Jake. Just take it one step at a time. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the heavy weight of the moment pressing down on him, but also something lighter, something that could grow. He looked between his parents, their expressions softening, the energy in the room transforming. Let's watch this story together. Maybe there's something I can learn. As they gathered around, curiosity knitting them together like a fragile thread, Jake felt the connection strengthening, like roots sprouting from barren soil. But another part of him couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of an even greater journey. Suddenly, the phone vibrated again in his hand. Another message popped up, this one almost too startling to comprehend. Jake's breath hitched once more as he read the words unraveling before him, setting the stage for something he never saw coming. Jake's eyes widened, his heart pounding like a drum. The headlines seemed to explode in his mind, each word landing with the weight of a revelation. How an incredible doctor saved a millionaire lawyer's life, unexpected transformation. He read it again and again, as if willing the words to rearrange themselves into something clearer. His parents leaned in closer, drawn by Jake's stunned expression. What does it say? His mother urged, voice barely above a whisper. It's not just about the lawyer, it's about the doctor, Jake replied. He's been through hell, survived something major. There has to be a connection. The soft glow of the screen illuminated their faces in the dim room. Jake felt as if an electric current was flowing between them, a collective anticipation building. He furiously scrolled down, desperate for more details, nearly breathless from excitement. Listen to this, he said, his voice trembling. The lawyer was facing a crisis in his career, just like I was. He hit rock bottom, dealt with addiction, everything. And then, this doctor, he changed everything. Jake, this could be just another story, his father warned, but there was doubt in his eyes now, a flicker of interest that hadn't been there before. No, Dad, this is different, Jake's excitement spilled over. They had to confront their pasts. Maybe this doctor knew how to break the chains that bind us. If sometimes you can't do it alone, maybe it takes someone else to guide you. Jake felt a surge of hope, the kind he hadn't dared to embrace. Memories swirled in his mind, the nights he'd spent battling his own demons, the loneliness, the endless cycles of feeling lost. If I could just find out how this doctor helped him, I could understand how to help myself. His mother touched Jake's arm again, her eyes shining with a hint of optimism. And maybe it could help your father, too, she added softly, nudging toward a territory they had avoided discussing. His father opened his mouth to retort, but then hesitated, absorbing the thought. A moment stretched out, thick with possibilities. Jake watched the hesitation in his dad's eyes shift to something softer. Maybe, his father said finally, his voice quieter now. But if these changes come, there's no denying they'll be hard. Hard is okay, Jake said, his determination firming like armor. It's about learning to live again, about becoming whole. I'm ready for that, for all of us. His heart raced, not just for himself, but for the family he had once thought could never heal together. Sharing this moment felt like stepping onto solid ground for the first time in years. Let's watch the whole report, Jake suggested, his fingers scrolling to find the video embedded alongside the article. He could feel the eyes of his parents on him, their shared breath holding a promise of change. As they gathered closer, emotions ran high, those charged, bittersweet memories encircling them. They watched as the coverage unfolded, capturing moments that resonated with their own struggles. The lawyer's vulnerable confessions mirrored Jake's own, but the subsequent transformation filled him with hope. Each triumph felt like a beacon, illuminated against darkness. And then it struck him. There was power in vulnerability, in facing fears and embracing failures. In that moment, the door to his past began to crack open. Each word spoken by the lawyer, every image of the doctor guiding him, struck a chord deep within Jake. As the final credits rolled, one thought crystallized. In his mind, what would it take for him to seek out that doctor? The thought lingered, sweet and terrifying. A journey sat before him, challenging and unpredictable, yet filled with the thrill of possibility. But as the screen dimmed, a new message popped up on Jake's phone. A number, a name, an invitation to step into the unknown. His gut churned with excitement and fear. Could this be the opportunity he'd been yearning for? Would he finally take that leap? The moment hung in the air, charged with expectation. Jake stared at his phone, the screen bright against the dim room. The name was unfamiliar, yet inexplicably significant. He could almost hear the ticking of his heart in the silence that followed. "Who is it?" his mother asked, her eyes darting between the phone and Jake's face, searching for any sign that this was something worthwhile. It's the doctor," Jake breathed, hardly believing it. The user profile held a picture of a kind-faced man, warm eyes that seemed to understand pain. "Do you think it is really him?" His father's voice was a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "How did he even get your number?" "I think he must be reaching out to people he's helped. This could be my chance." The excitement layered over Jake's doubt, a mix that felt both thrilling and terrifying. His mother placed a hand on Jake's shoulder, grounding him. "Are you going to call him?" Anxiety curled in his stomach, but his resolution strengthened as he considered the potential for change. "Yes, tonight. I need to know more." He hesitated, biting his lip as doubts threatened to spill in. What if this was just another false hope? What if he was too broken to be helped? Yet, the story he just witnessed replayed in his mind. The lawyer had transformed. The doctor had believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. With a determined nod, Jake dialed the number, the sound of the ringing echoing in the quiet space around them. His heart raced with each tone, a drumbeat for the future he could feel just out of reach. Come on," he whispered to himself. Finally, the call connected, and a calm voice greeted him. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Dr. Anderson?" Jake's voice cracked slightly, the reality of speaking to the doctor sending butterflies into his stomach. "Yes, this is Dr. Anderson. Who am I speaking with?" "This is Jake. I saw the report about you." He took a deep breath, pushing through the nerves. "I wanted to know more about what you did for that lawyer, how you helped him change his life." There was a brief pause, then a soft chuckle. "It's not always about me helping people. It's more about them being ready to help themselves." "You sound like you're searching for that readiness, Jake." His heart jumped at the doctor's words. "Yeah, I've been feeling stuck for a long time. I don't know how to move past this. Would you like to meet? We can talk more about your journey." Swallowing the lump in his throat, Jake agreed. They arranged to meet at a cafe the next day. He felt as if the ground beneath him had shifted, each moment closer to the meeting both exhilarating and anxiety-inducing. After hanging up, an unexpected silence fell, thick with anticipation. Jake turned to his parents, their faces a mix of concern and pride. "Are you okay?" his mother asked, her voice soft. I think so. I really think this might be the start of something. He could see hope reflected in their eyes. It felt fragile, yet powerful, like the dawn of a new day just on the horizon. Suddenly, the phone buzzed again, snapping him from his thoughts. It was a text from Dr. Anderson, a brief note confirming their meeting and encouraging him. Believe in the possibility of change. Jake read it again and smiled. Maybe things really can be different. But as he sank into the comfort of that thought, a new worry started to itch at the back of his mind. What if he wasn't ready? What if change was more than just a meeting? With the weight of the future ahead of him and the shadows of his past still lingering, Jake wondered, could he truly embrace the challenge that lay before him? Or would fear pull him back into the familiar darkness? The question hovered in the air, heavy and unanswered, as he contemplated what he was about to step into. The sun filtered through the trees as Jake arrived at the cafe, casting dappled patterns on the pavement. The fresh smell of coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of soft chit-chat and clinking cups. It was a normal day, yet for Jake, it felt monumental. His heart hammered in his chest, an excited but anxious rhythm. He should be here, he told himself. Today could mark a turning point. Jake spotted Dr. Anderson, sitting at a corner table. The doctor was relaxed, leaning back in his chair, eyes scanning the surrounding people. There was something undeniably calming about his presence. Jake hesitated just for a moment, then took a deep breath and approached. "Hello, Jake, right?" Dr. Anderson greeted with a warm smile, extending his hand. "Yes, thank you for meeting with me," Jake replied, shaking his hand. A spark of connection ignited between them, almost as if the doctor was already seeing parts of Jake that he himself had buried. "Of course, please, have a seat." Dr. Anderson gestured to the chair opposite him. "So, tell me what's on your mind." Jake swallowed hard. His mind raced. How does one even begin to express years of feeling lost? I've been struggling for a long time, feeling like I'm stuck. I don't know how to move forward." His voice wavered, cracking under the weight of his vulnerability. Dr. Anderson studied him, nodding slowly. "It's completely understandable to feel that way. Life can throw so many challenges at us. But first, let's look at what you're dealing with. What does stuck really mean for you?" Jake inhaled deeply, collecting his scattered thoughts. "I feel like I'm in this dark tunnel and can't see the light. I used to have dreams, plans, but now all I do is get through each day. I want more. I want to believe things can be different." Dr. Anderson's expression softened. "Believing in change is the first step. You're already doing that by being here. Many people never take that leap." Jake felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he wasn't as lost as he thought. He leaned in, sensing the doctor's genuine interest. "What did you do for that lawyer? I mean, how did you help him?" A smile broke on Dr. Anderson's face. "Ah, the lawyer. He was in a dark place too, much like you describe. We worked together to dig deep. It wasn't about fixing him. It was about guiding him to rediscover the strength that was within him." Jake felt a swell of curiosity. What if I don't even know where to start? "Then we start with small steps. Change doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. It's about finding those small victories." Nervously, Jake picked at the edge of his napkin. "What if I fail? What if I'm not enough?" "Jake," Dr. Anderson leaned forward, his gaze steady and earnest. "What if you succeed? What if you discover strengths you didn't even know you had?" Those words struck a chord within Jake. The weight of self-doubt felt a little lighter. Hope fluttered in his chest, more than just a whisper now. It was a voice fighting to be heard. "But how? How do I start?" Jake pressed, eager yet fearful. "We'll figure it out together. The first step might be challenging, but I'll be with you each step of the way." As they continued to talk, Jake felt an unprecedented sense of connection. Each word exchanged was like a thread weaving through the fabric of his reality. A mix of excitement and anxiety pulsed through him, as if each question, each answer, was shaking loose the chains he had been carrying for so long. But beneath his burgeoning hope, a trickle of fear still lingered. The thought crept back in. What if he couldn't sustain this change? Finishing his coffee, Jake looked down at the empty cup. What if I want to change, but it's too hard? Dr. Anderson leaned back, considering. Change is never easy, but you're not alone in this. Together, we will navigate those challenges. Jake took in his words. What if he dared to step into the light? The thought felt terrifying, yet thrilling. Just as reassurance fluttered him, another question stirred, nagging at the edges of his mind. How far were he and Dr. Anderson willing to go? Would he be able to confront parts of himself he had buried deep? He felt the shift within him. As he prepared to answer, ready to confront his past and embrace the possibility of a brighter future. Yet the next moment brought an unexpected interruption. A flash of movement drew Jake's eye across the cafe. A familiar figure stood by the door, someone he thought he'd never see again. Jake's heart dropped. His pulse raced, each beat a frantic drum in his chest. There, framed by the cafe door, was Sarah. The image of her was as striking as it was jarring. It had been years since they'd last spoken, years since their lives had become entangled in a way that now felt like a distant memory. Her presence cast an immediate shadow over Jake's moment of clarity, clouding his thoughts. She looked different, older perhaps, but still undeniably beautiful. There was a longing in her expression, an ache that seemed to mirror his own. For just a heartbeat, time froze. The half-formed words of Dr. Anderson faded into the background noise. All that mattered was Sarah. Jake? Dr. Anderson's voice cut through the spell. He turned to the doctor, but his gaze quickly drifted back to her. What was she doing here? Jake felt a mix of emotions, surprise, anger, and old longing. Being face to face with Sarah for the first time since their breakup felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She had been part of his past, a past filled with missed chances and broken dreams. "Hey," he managed to say, the word barely escaping his lips. She took a tentative step forward, eyes searching his. "I didn't think I'd see you here today." "Yeah, He paused, caught off guard. "I'm meeting someone." "I can see that," she replied, glancing at Dr. Anderson, who observed the interaction with a patient, knowing smile. Jake felt an urge to defend himself. "I'm working on some things." It felt strange to share that with her, but there was a truth he couldn't ignore. He wanted her to know he was trying to change, that he was more than who he used to be. "Good for you," she said softly, an edge of something. Was it regret in her voice? Dr. Anderson cleared his throat, bringing Jake back to the present. "Would you like to continue?" he asked, giving Jake an opening. Jake looked between the two of them, a part of him wanting to dive back into this moment with the doctor, to pursue the hope that was building within him. But another part felt the pull of the past, the unresolved tension with Sarah. "Can you give me a minute?" he asked the doctor, not even sure if he wanted an answer. "Of course," Dr. Anderson replied calmly, his expression encouraging. Jake turned fully to Sarah. The years that had passed since they'd last communicated, whispering through the air like ghosts. "What are you doing here?" I was having coffee with a friend. I didn't expect to see you." Her voice was measured, but Jake sensed the undercurrent of emotion. "Shouldn't you be, don't know, somewhere else?" he said, uncharacteristically defensive. "You have a life now." "And you don't?" she shot back. A mix of hurt and defiance colored her cheeks. Jake felt a twinge in his chest. The way they always seemed to know how to push each other's buttons hadn't changed. "It's complicated," he muttered, looking away. He caught Dr. Anderson observing them. Did he see the way Sarah always managed to get under his skin? She moved closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "I've missed you. I've thought about us, about how it ended. I didn't want it to be like that." He searched her eyes, looking for clarity, but found only echoes of their shared past. Could he trust her words? There was so much water under that bridge. "You left, Sarah. You made a choice." "I know. she said, her voice trembling slightly. But things change. People change. Jake felt the walls he had built around his heart tremble. He had begun to explore rebuilding himself, but now uncertainty flooded in. Could he face this part of his life, this person, after everything they had been through? As questions loomed heavy between them, the world outside continued. Conversations drifted on, laughter echoed, but all he could hear was the steady drum of his heart. "Jake, I need to talk," Sarah said, her tone more serious now. "What could we possibly say that hasn't already been said?" he challenged, defending the vulnerable sanctuary he had begun to carve out with Dr. Anderson. "Maybe we could find a way to resolve what was left unresolved," she suggested, desperation tinting her voice. The tension hung thick, a fragile weight between the two. Jake was poised on the edge of a decision that could sweep him into the familiar chaos he thought he had escaped from. But was it really chaos? Or perhaps it was a chance to confront his past, a step into the unknown, right when he was trying to embrace change. Before he could respond, Dr. Anderson stood, preparing to step in and divert the conversation or give Jake a moment to breathe. Jake sensed he was being watched, and time slowed as he faced Sarah once more, heart pounding with the weight of possibilities. What if facing her was the missing piece he needed in his transformation? "Okay," Jake finally said, heart racing. "Let's talk." And at that moment, the true nature of his journey began to unfold, both with Sarah and within himself. Jake sat across from Sarah, the familiar warmth of their shared history hanging in the air like a delicate thread waiting to be woven anew. The cafe buzzed around them, yet in that moment, the world had shrunk to just the two of them, two old friends whose lives had twisted into a path filled with questions and uncertainties. "Why now?" he asked, feeling the weight of his own vulnerability pressing in. "Why did you come back into my life today?" She took a deep, her breath, her eyes shimmering with something between hope and fear. "I realized how much I miss you. After everything that happened between us, I've spent too long avoiding that reality." Jake ran a hand through his hair, his heart pounding. "But you left, Sarah. You made your choice." "I know," she admitted, her voice trembling. "And every day since, I've felt that choice haunt me. I didn't want it to end like that. I wanted to talk then, but I was scared. I thought giving space would help us both, but instead, it just built walls." Her honesty struck him. He had just started tearing down his own walls, exposing the corners of his heart that he had buried deep with ambition and pride. He had come to this cafe to find guidance on how to heal, not to revisit the heartache of the past. Yet now, as Sarah spoke, the layers of his heart lifted hesitantly. "Do you think you can forgive me?" she asked, her gaze steady as she searched for answers in his eyes. Jake swallowed hard, feeling the knot in his throat loosen ever so slightly. "I didn't bring you here to place blame, Sarah. I'm trying to move forward and be better. All this time, I thought I had to do it alone, but I realized with Dr. Anderson, I can't. Maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't do it alone here either." Sarah's breath hitched at his words, and he could tell she understood the weight of the moment. "What if we both faced our ghosts together?" Her voice was low, earnest. The idea made Jake's heart flutter with both trepidation and excitement. Could they really build something new from the ruins that had felt so insurmountable? But then he heard the echo of his father's words ringing in his head. "You think that just coming back will fix everything?" And he began to doubt his newfound steadiness. Was it foolish to think they could reconstruct what had been shattered? "Jake, I don't want to rush anything. I know it's a long process," she said gently, "but I believe we can start here, together." He met her gaze, and for the first time in a long time, hope speared through the clouds of doubt. "I want that too," he admitted, recalling the laughter they had shared, the dreams they had built. Yet there was still a tight knot of insecurity in his chest. But how do we even begin? "Let's start with honesty," she said. "The truth is where we need to build our foundation. I've been searching for a way back to you, and maybe this is it." Jake felt a rush of determination surge through him. He wanted her back in his life, but could he really share his fears and failures, or would the echoes of the past haunt him again? "Okay, honesty," he said, the words tumbling out with newfound boldness. "I've been working hard to face my own demons. I've been trying to reconnect with my family, too." "Your family?" Sarah's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Yeah," he admitted, a wave of vulnerability washing over him. "I lost touch with them when my career took off. I thought I was doing what was best, but it only led me to isolation. I finally called my mother after everything." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "Jake, that's huge. I'm so proud of you." "But it's scary," he added, feeling the fight creep back into his stomach. "I don't know how they'll receive me." "They'll want to see you, just like I do," she reassured him, her voice wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Taking steps toward healing from the past is always scary, but sharing that journey with others, together, makes it less overwhelming. Jake inhaled deeply and felt a sense of clarity wash over him. "What if we really tried?" he asked tentatively, casting aside his fears. "Not just as old friends trying to rekindle something, but as two people committed to rebuilding ourselves." "Together," she affirmed, her eyes shining with sincerity. "Let's walk this path, wherever it leads." His heart soared, ready to embrace what came next. In that cafe filled with the smells of coffee and passion, surrounded by a world adjusting and moving forward, Jake felt that something profound had shifted. "Okay," he said with a smile, the sound of that one word carrying a weight of possibility. "Together it is." In that shared moment, Jake and Sarah began more than just a conversation. They embarked on a journey of rediscovery, a leap toward a kinder future. And in that journey, he could see the faint outline of healing taking root, a testament to resilience forged through connection. As their talk unfolded, the walls he had built began to dissolve, along with the fear that had once dictated his choices. Perhaps family and friendship meant more than just proximity. They meant understanding, support, and the courage to confront their intertwined past. Each subsequent conversation with Sarah and the meeting with Dr. Anderson felt like a step along a much larger path, one filled with love, forgiveness, change, and hope. And so, with open hearts and unyielding determination, Jake and Sarah took those first few steps together, ready to face both the challenges of their pasts and the radiant possibilities of their future. As each day unfolded, the blend of their stories carved a new tapestry, a mosaic of healing drenched in the bright colors of second chances. With excitement blazing in his heart, Jake now felt truly ready for what came next. This is where our story concludes, dear friends. But remember, the journey of transformation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change your life like Jake's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us thriving. In the comments, tell us how you felt about this ending, and don't be shy. Share your own stories of transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. Only true fans understand how important your support is.